Have you ever wondered why games today suck? Maybe it's because you can't nuke your little brother in Modern Warfare 2 split screen anymore, because local co-op is dead, and he is indeed now better at video games than you. Whatever the reason, we're going back in time to see what made games great before bots and microtransactions were a thing. Get in, loser. We're going time hopping. Before we jump into the game, we actually need to first get to know the game. This means taking it out on a romantic date and asking it about its childhood trauma. Just kidding, but you can do that if you want to though. The year was 2004, which was when I was not 2000 and poor, and High Voltage along with Sierra Entertainment released their love child, Larry Lovage, Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude. Back then, the console PC feud was settled as players all across the gaming spectrum could play it. What is it exactly, you ask? Well, it is a 3D action-adventure game where the player controls Larry Lovage, the copycat nephew of the original Leisure Suit Larry, as he tries to win the affection of various women on a college campus. Would you believe me if I told you the game was originally $50 for PS2 and Xbox, and $30 for PC? That's a lot of doll hairs, even for you, but apparently not for your dad, because by 2011, the game has sold around 10 million copies worldwide. That means he didn't just go out to buy some milk. But what did people think of the game? Well, people are lame and gave the game mixed reviews, with some critics praising the humor and gameplay, while others criticized the game's repetitive nature and crude humor. What a bunch of squares. Despite its average rating, Magna Cum Laude was a commercial success, and a follow-up game, Leisure Suit Larry Box Office Bust, was released in 2009. That one was a bust, but not the fun one, so don't even play it. It was also nominated for GameSpot's annual Funniest Game Award, but just like Larry, it was a loser and lost to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Wow, what a great date that was. Now let's play the game. The game starts off with Larry having a dream about being a big man on campus. The dean of the school tries to ruin his fun, but Larry has the power of both God and anime on his side, who keeps his ego safe by crushing the dean with a literal safe. The dream ends up pretty crazy as everyone cheers and claps and dances for Larry, but back in reality, a bird decides to take a poop on his head, leaving Larry wet and sticky in 2 places. He then turns on the TV and gets asked the question we all get asked when we come of age.
Are you a loser?
No, I am not a loser.
You can't lie to me.
Who are you?
The answer to that is yes, and Larry decides that he is the perfect candidate to go on Love Island 2024. I mean, Swingles, a reality dating show where one lonely loser gets to date plenty of other lonely loser girls. I then noticed that Larry's room was overwhelmingly full of noodle cups. Even the microwave had one in it. Disgusted by their obvious display of sponsorship, I decided to write an angry letter to the developers of the game explaining my hatred towards noodle cups. They still haven't responded. Before I could go, an ad popped onto the television telling me to go outside, so I switched it off immediately because I couldn't handle that kind of negativity in my life right now. There was also a flash montage which showed me the girls that I needed to win over to progress with the game. The girls looked quite unaware that they were being photographed, but I'm sure the show would never film them without their consent or knowledge. Out in the dorms, I decided to catch up with my friend Steve, who was talking to some chicks.
Hey, get out of here, bro. You stink.
He was pretty mean to me, so I decided to make him jealous by making a new friend instead, Sally Mae. I blurred out the dialogue bar in the next part because it showed a suspicious fish, and I wasn't sure that this was a YouTube-approved swimmer. Larry goes on to pretend to be a big-shot music producer who cares about farmers and their farmer children. This obviously caught the attention of Sally Mae, who, I don't know if you could tell, is a real country girl, and even comes from a farm herself. I caught Larry in a lie as during this conversation he says the words, "I'm just a good old boy at heart," when I know he's at least 47. But unfortunately, Sally Mae didn't wear her glasses that day and made the poor decision that it would be a good time for Larry to go and mix them some drinks. I decided I needed a break from talking before I continued, so I crop dusted my friend Steve and his friends and stole some money from a vending machine. There was nothing more to see except a man stuck in an elevator who did not seem to care and a girl who was very open about hating us.
That he needs my heart back.
I hate you!
Larry had seen enough and was ready to get his booze on. I could have sworn Larry had done this before, as one does not get that sort of elegance and grace while mixing the devil's liquid without any previous experience. Once the alcohol was mixed, it was time to give this toxic concoction to Sally Mae. During this conversation, Larry got really excited.
Party! Ow!
And it started to sink in why nobody wanted to be friends with him. Sally Mae started to ask us what our inner country music producing gossip was, and so Larry told her all the juicy made up lies he could think of from just looking around the room. Sally Mae believed him, of course, and Larry suggested they have some fun by dancing. Larry's hips don't lie, and I could tell he followed some dancing tutorials on YouTube before, or what Larry likes to call a folk dancing club. After a bit more talking, we find out that Larry has a criminal history.
It was a complete disaster. I mean, the police totally overreacted.
Were you really excommunicated?
No, but the Catholic Church did charge me with apostasy.
And Sally Mae, not wanting to affiliate herself further, decided that she was tired and wanted to go home and sleep. But Larry quickly convinced her that she'll suffer from alcohol stiffness, a made-up condition, and the only way to combat this was through a game of quarters, a drinking game where you have to shoot a coin into a glass to get the other person to drink. It was a really close game, but Larry came in with a clutch and won to Sally Mae, who then decided that she wanted to go back to our place and teach Larry some more dance moves. Back in our room, things didn't go according to Larry's plan though, when Sally Mae changed her mind because Larry is not Jewish, leaving us alone and empty in our room with only our hat as a sad reminder of our failures in life. After all that drinking, Larry realized that he wasn't the young man he once was, and the only way to feel better was not through painkillers and greasy food, but instead through peeing on that jerk Steve.
This is the second time today. I totally just got pissed on. Oh, I'm wet.
Outside, we see Uma doing a Swingles broadcast, and Larry decides it's the best time to approach her, asking if we can audition for the show. She mistakes us for her new assistant, but Larry quickly tells her that he wants to be on the show, and after some convincing, she tells us to bring at least some used cotton panties, oh yeah! From 2 different girls to audition. Larry doesn't see this as a challenge, and neither do we, as the girls on this campus are pretty dumb. Before heading towards our next girl, we decide to stop and ruin this man's whole kicky bag career. He can't do anything about it though, because his motto in life is don't hate the player, hate the game. Seeing Larry hit on girls half his age was pretty cringy to watch, but hey, he's just an old-age Leonardo DiCaprio in the making.
If I could rearrange the alphabet, baby, I'd put you and I together. Get it?
Wanna buy some candy bars to support the band?
I said no to her candy because my parents told me to never take candy from strangers, but I did pull out my camera and took pictures of another candy, eye candy, which was the Hobo Man. It didn't sell well when I tried to sell it to the campus perv, but that's okay. His photo will replace Uncle Larry's photo on our nightstand. I felt like I left Annalisa waiting for long enough, so I went over to work our magic.
What? Ungrateful fuck. I gotta break your fucking leg.
During this conversation, she was pretty rude to her mother, which was a pretty big turnoff for me. But Larry tapped into his inner daddy issues and used it to relate to her. I also learned a lot about Larry's childhood, things I never wanted to know. I'll share some of it, but I took a blood oath to not share more.
You should hear the questions when I go home. When are you gonna graduate? Who stole all your mother's bras? What is this charge to 1-900 senior sluts?
That boy ain't right.
After a game of quarters and a bit more talking, Annalisa decided to go to the frat party, which Larry could not join because he needed to pay $10. It was time to start grinding, and hustle culture took over because we literally had $0 to our name. At first, I tried to make money the honest way by passing out animal rights flyers, but that was too hard, and I don't really believe in rights, so I rage quit and did the easy thing instead, milking the camera cheat where you take endless amounts of photos of cheerleaders and sell them to the creepy perv guy. Works every time. With my $10 hustled, I could now go into the frat party and continue my chat with Annalisa. It's here where we learned that her family wanted her to come home for the weekend, but she didn't want to. She also hints at the fact that her dad is part of the Italian mafia, and without having it to be said, he's very protective of her. Larry then tells her to stand up to her parents, just as he did before he got cut off from the family tree, and suggests that they go jump on the trampoline, like all college students do. I am not a tramp, and I don't own an Oline, so I cannot relate. Before I bounced around with her, I decided to have a look at this frat party that I just paid $10 to get into. I was quite disappointed at the state of the place, as there wasn't even free pizza, and I even got chased by bees the second time that day. During this trampoline session, we get the pleasure of seeing Larry without a shirt on again, since the loser needs to take their clothes off. I guess the trampoline gave Larry a boost in confidence, because afterwards he got on the phone with Annalisa's dad and told him that she won't be coming home this weekend. I speak some Italian, and since I do have a 69-day streak on Duolingo, let me translate the next part for you. Or something like that. Either way, that did not sit well with Daddy Mafia, and the next thing I know, we got chased through the school trying to escape his goons. Larry escaped with Annalisa back to his room, where she tried to get it on with him, but her dad left Larry a very cryptic message on the radio. This led Larry to freaking out and running away, but not before he collects his token of affection from Annalisa. I wasted no time by cracking on with the next girl, Ione, who was waiting for us in the library. Larry went about getting to know her by using his same old tricks, which was through lies and deception. He decided to be funny by pranking the dean of the school, who turns out to be Ione's uncle. She thinks it's pretty funny though, but not until Larry tells her that he recently pranked the dean's wife by pretending to be the dean and telling her to donate all of his liquor, which the dean was planning on using for a special dinner that night. Ione then pleads with you to go and find the liquor because her aunt will be the one eating the sour pudding if he doesn't. Larry is a simp though, and so he agrees. For some reason, there was a stripper in the library, and I don't understand why, but one cannot question science. To find the bottle of liquor, we had to go and talk to the only man who could help us, the hobo man, who has a name by the way, I just forgot it. He tells us that he bought the bottle at Goodwill for 28 cents, but will sell it to us at a bargain of only $500. I don't live in America, so I don't know their currency, but it did sound like a great deal to me. Larry haggles with him though, finally making a deal that he will dance with him instead in exchange for the bottle, to which he agrees because unbeknownst to us, he also has a picture of Larry on his nightstand. With the bottle in hand, it was time to go back to Ione's dorm room and rekindle our connection. I was kind of sad when this loading screen came up and the Annalisa model did not have the iconic Annalisa blue makeup. What a missed opportunity from the dev team. Larry was thoroughly surprised at seeing how clean and noodle-free other people's rooms are, and even brought it up during the conversation.
A dresser! That's where you keep your underwear, isn't it?
Ione was quite uncomfortable with this 47-year-old man being in her room and asks him to leave, but Larry, being Larry, convinces her into playing a game of quarters and then bullies her into getting a makeover. Ione declines at first, saying a man should appreciate her for who she is, but Larry doesn't believe in the made-up concept of feminism anyway, so her words just fall on deaf ears.
Here we go! Let the transformation be... Yeesh! let's leave those on.
She finally caves in and Larry gives her a makeover. At first I thought, wow, he was meant for this. But then he turned her into a lady of the night that you'd see on GTA. They get into a very uncomfortable conversation, where she tells you she feels stimulated. I can't tell you the rest because it's quite raunchy, so we'll leave off where Larry runs out of the room like a lunatic. Back at Uma, she tells you that we've successfully qualified to be a contestant on Swingles, and we need to bring 2 more tokens of affection to go on to the next round. Another montage of girls we can now talk to plays, and it includes that weird girl who tried to sell us candy earlier.
Wanna buy some candy bars to support the band?
I got a little tired of talking to the girls at this point, so I decided to go and hang out with the bros at the frat house. It was a real sausage party in there. I then spoke to Big Daddy Warpig, asking if I could pledge the DIO house, which stands for Dance It Out, I think.
What do you think, Big Brother Sweetleaf?
Not convinced at all. No, sir.
What do you think, Supernaut?
Boy, not friend. Drink. Good.
It sounds pretty unanimous, I'm afraid.
At first they didn't want us, and even ridiculed us, but Larry was made fun of even upon conception, so this was nothing new to him. His braveness to be so short must have inspired them, because they changed their minds and said Larry could join if he could beat a cheerleader in a trampoline competition. It was quite easy peasy, chicken cheesy. If this was the type of stuff that boys were into, I'd rather hang out with the girls. We then started talking to Zara, who was a foreign exchange student. I don't know from where, but judging from her clothes and accent, I'm guessing Canada. For some reason, this made Larry really passionate about America.
Speaking as an American, let me say, I think your country must acknowledge that Ivan Drago's murder of Apollo Creed was not an accident. Only then can the healing begin.
Okie dokie.
It turns out Zara is no ordinary foreign exchange student, but is instead a Russian-Canadian-German spy, and we soon found ourselves being chased around again, but this time by the FBI.
Police! Help!
Afterwards, when the FBI caught us and wiped our minds, Larry plays another game of quarters. Sarah didn't handle losing well and started to throw a tantrum. Still being sour, she refused to talk to us again until we changed her outfit to something a bit more classy. I wanted to pull an Uno reverse card on her since she was not dressed the best herself, but them's the rules, I guess. This has nothing to do with the game, but look at this cat. I beat up the hobo man, who at this point had practically moved in with us for his suit, and once Larry put it on, he was like a brand new man. He even looked 10 years younger. Zara would now talk to us since we were both classy and sassy, but she got annoyed with Larry's pro-American speeches and challenged him to a game of bouncy bouncy.
You may have defeated me at your quarters recreation, little man, but I will show you now our physical superiority.
Larry destroyed her yet again and was titled the campus's trampoline, and this really bruised her ego.
So you have defeated me, little man. You think it's end? It's not end. Gonna be back. Gonna be back. Crush you and your USA!
That blew right out of proportion, which leads me to blow over into our next part, my review. It's time for your job review, and I'm afraid we can only give you a 0.2% salary increase. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to bring up bad memories. Let's focus on the game instead. In this review, we'll look at factors that, in my opinion, made Leisure Suit Larry Magna Cum Laude a good to great game. I won't be focusing on factors such as soundtrack, audio, or graphics, because that is for noobs, and these days any game can impress noobs by ticking those boxes while providing nothing but shallow gameplay in return. Overall, I think it was a good game that really incorporated all the elements required for it to be a great game, and even though it was somewhat repetitive at times, it was still a lot of fun, and I was excited to continue playing to see how Larry's story unravels. I loved the fact that there was constantly the introduction of new characters who were pretty well written, having both personalities and purpose in the game, as well as new environments which fit well in the game. The developers of the game did a really good job at distracting you from the immoral acts Larry was performing just to get laid. I only showed you about 30% of the gameplay for this game in this video, but if I could go back in time, I'd say it was well worth its $50 since you get a decent amount of game time and gameplay without having to download 100 patches to fix bugs that should have been fixed before the game's release. Let me know if you want a part 2 on this game and what you thought of Leisure Suit Larry when you played it, or if you would play it in the future. Now don't forget to like and subscribe, or I will poop on your head when you least expect it. That's it for me. I'll see you again later sometime and someplace with another video. Until next time, bye.
Ugh, earwax flavour.